Hey guys, I scheduled the live stream a little bit late today, so I'll give it a minute or two for people to actually show up, and then we'll start rolling. How are you guys doing? Everyone okay? Enjoying the beginning weekend? Good afternoon from FL, which I assume is Florida. Good afternoon to you too. I don't actually know. Finland, maybe? FL Finland? Okay, that works. Could have been a lot of things. Good to see you guys. So for today, it's not gonna be Cred because he's sick. He rarely takes time off, but today is one of those days. Got sick overnight, and is now not gonna bless us with his presence. I hope you guys don't mind. If you expected some kind of English, very smart person to narrate this it's not gonna happen this Friday. But next Friday, it's gonna be Cred and me, and maybe we can finally get Gainsey to show up. So yeah, gonna be a little bit more exciting, but we'll make the best of today. Before we start, big shout out to the sponsor of the show, Bybit. Really appreciate them sponsoring it. Yeah, they make this weekly show possible. So big shout out, big thank you. Their links are in the description if you want to check them out. And while we're talking about in the description and stuff, in the spirit of Cred not being here, I'll ask you to like the video if you do like it. But you can do it at the end of the stream as well. No rush. Yes, German narrator. I'll try my best. But yeah, what do you guys want to do? I didn't really plan much today because really wasn't meant to be a solo stream. But I'm open for anything. So you guys throw me anything and I'll do anything. We can talk about trading. We can chart stuff. We can talk about altcoins. We can just generally chat. I mean, it's Friday, right? No one really wants to do anything serious. So I'm open to do anything. But I'm also open to doing it super seriously. So do let me know. Holy shit, he asked for the like button. Yeah, I mean, Cred's sick. I have to. He can't do it, so I have to. What was it like trading that ride to 20k? It wasn't really much trading, to be honest. Like what I did is I loaded up on Bitcoin in this area. Got pretty lucky, like I avoided the sideways right before this. Loaded up on Bitcoin, wrote it up, and didn't really margin trade it too much. And I think, thank God I did, because it's an easy way to get wrecked. Like if you try to get fancy, if shit goes up, you want to be long exposed, or like long exposed. You want to have exposure, but you don't have to be long exposed. Because, like, let's say you buy this and then you long it and you like, at 1.7k, you're like, holy shit, this is crazy, right? This is completely nuts. This shouldn't go up this quick. And then you close the long, maybe even start shorting, and then you get blown out. So in some cases, you don't have to necessarily leverage up. So for me, this wasn't much trading. All I did was take a tiny part of the portfolio, take it off whenever I thought it was going crazy, put it back on whenever we got a 40% retrace. That's literally what I did. But yeah, that shit was nuts. Every time you woke up, your portfolio was at least 10% higher. Like not necessarily during the Bitcoin run, but even there, pretty similar. But also during the altcoin run, like that was completely nuts. It'd be nice to have that again sometime. Let's talk about pizza now, man. People are gonna hate me for it, but pizza isn't actually my thing. Like I don't mind a pizza now every now and then, but like a pizza like every week pizza I wouldn't really enjoy that. Where's KGB guy? KGB guy is sick. Probably poisoned. Still holding your 12k short? Nope. Close that. Close that to see where this weekly closes. And so far pretty happy with that decision because let's actually talk about Bitcoin like before people like run away being like, oh shit, I have to listen to this guy ramble for an hour. Let's do Bitcoin real quick because there's some movement or at least like something that we can kind of point out, and that's the weekly chart. This weekly candle here really looks bullish to me so far. So 2 days to go. Bulls have been holding this level. I said that 2 days ago. They have to hold the level. They are. If this closes like this, any kind of dip next week I think is for buying if you get it. The chances of it going up afterwards are much higher than it going down. And then I think we might take on at least 12.1, if not 12.5, if not 13.8. So it's kind of what I'm looking for. See where this weekly closes. And then there's actually good bullish setup to be had, I think, to at least a little bit higher. So keep this in mind. I mean, we've had it before where we get a pullback that closes at support and then nukes down. That does happen. So don't get too complacent, like 100% chance that this goes up. But the thing is, it happens very rarely. So I'm fine with like taking a long trade, even though I think it's gonna pull back in general at some point. So could easily bounce here, maybe even go there and then just completely crash back down. We'll see. I'll update you in the newsletter probably. Monday is credit stream, but I'll update you in the newsletter if you read it. Does that mean you have crypto exposure now? I always have crypto exposure, at least a little bit, because I trade with crypto. But yeah, right now I'm not short. And when I'm not short, I automatically have crypto exposure because I have Bitcoin on exchanges to trade with. When gains, you guess, I mean, it's not my fault. The guy's just dodging like a master. I mean, not really like a master. He's just saying, oh, my microphone isn't working every week for the last 4 weeks. But he's gonna come on. I'll force him to. Okay, but yeah, this is the weekly chart that I'm having a look at. The monthly chart's still completely fine, right? So, I mean, as much as I like being a bear, at some point, if stuff is at support, I'm not gonna be super bearish into that support. How it looks after a bounce, right? At 12.1, 12.5, or maybe even 13.8, completely different story. Do you think we make a new all-time high by December? I doubt it. I very much doubt so, but market is crazy. Could easily do so. And this pullback, so far, like I expected more. Like I saw this, I shorted it. Got a pretty nice short in and then closed it for, I mean, not even a $1,000 move. So, yeah. When are you going to flip your pick? What has to happen? Like 40% retrace? Like, be it from here to like, what's 40% from there to, oh yeah, that's pretty nice. Like from there to there, then I'd probably flip it, roughly. Because then I'd be buying Bitcoin. Or like, at least, stop looking for shorts and start looking for aggressive longs instead. So that would have to happen. And if it just goes up, right? I mean, I'm just not gonna buy Bitcoin aggressively until it does, right? I mean, I just told you like when the stream started, like what I did back here. It's pretty much the same thing that I'm gonna do in here if I get to. Are you expecting a violent retrace or progressive one? I think it's gonna be violent one, and it's probably gonna get bought up relatively quick. Like, I mean, this has been really quick. Maybe not quite as quick as this, but if we get like a meaningful dump off of like 14K, I think it's gonna be an aggressive one to wipe the longs out and then wipe the short outs after. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Like it's because it's been, I mean, it's not easy to hold longs, right? But this has been a pretty easy ride up. So at some point I expect people to get shaken, and I don't want to be the guy that gets shaken, right? I much rather wait for stupid stuff to happen. Like, I mean, this is a stupid candle, right? I bought that, and these are stupid candles. I bought those. These retraces were completely stupid. I'm gonna buy those. I'm not gonna buy like aggressively before something like that happens, because crypto always gives you something like that. And if this is the one time it doesn't, I mean, tough luck, right? That's trading for you. Smash through until 16K, nuke to 9K, 40% would work. Yeah, that's completely fine. That's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, there's a very high chance that you're gonna get a massive pullback, be it from 20K, 40%, right? And then you're roughly at the same levels that we are right now, or like from these levels right here, 40%, and then we roughly go to 6K. At some point, I'm pretty sure it's gonna happen. I mean, it's just how it plays out, how it likes to play out. Doesn't even have to be 40%, like 30% or something's more than enough. But some kind of massive shakeout, something I'm expecting at some point, and I'll wait for that. Do you have emotions? I do, yeah. I've just, over my time trading this, I've just been like conditioned to just wait for shit. Like, if you don't give it time, you're gonna be the one. The worst thing is, right? The worst thing that I've seen people do is like they're like, okay, I'm gonna buy when this happens, and it happens, and then they don't buy or don't sell, and then it moves in that direction, and then the longer it goes on, the more FOMO they get for some reason. I mean, I guess it's just normal, but and then they chase at the last second or like at the last leg or whatever, and then get blown out completely. It's not something I typically do. I mean, I've used to do some stupid shit back in the days. And I mean, waiting for a massive retrace in like this kind of market structure might be stupid too, right? But so far in my entire trading career, just waiting, giving it some time hasn't really hurt me. So that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so we have Bitcoin. ETH, same story actually with ETH. I don't know why my chart got deleted, or like at least my support did, but we're actually right in the middle of a zone, right? And in this case, usually when I have a zone and price gets back into it, I wanted to like kind of get out with the next candle. In this case, it broke the thing and then got back into it immediately. So it's obvious that we're gonna spend some time in here, but I think it's gonna be telling where this breaks, right? If this breaks upwards and starts closing above the zone, I mean, at least 500-ish, I think would make sense. And if it starts breaking down, I think you would start to capitulate into the 290 area. And I think that's actually a really nice area in general. 290 for ETH, pretty much high time frame support on the monthly and the weekly. You can even draw daily supports there. So that'd be a nice area to look at for ETH, I think. Duck, please link 200 by winter. I can't wait any longer than that. I don't think, like, I think linked marines are gonna get fucked relatively soonish. but this doesn't look too terrible. But there's gonna be a day of reckoning where this shit goes 70% in like a week down. It's just, this isn't necessarily a top-ish looking chart. We can actually compare it to something. If you guys remember, I followed this pretty closely. I don't know if I still have my drawings on there. Yeah, look at, what the fuck? Close enough, guys. Remember this? Close enough. I was like, I drew this like in this consolidation, whatever. I was like, okay, I should just go full retrace, whatever. Close enough. But yeah, BSV. This kind of structure here, and it doesn't really matter that it's against USD and this isn't. Actually, this is against USD too. But this kind of structure usually starts breaking up. And if it then does like make a higher low, lower high, I think that's going to be the top. And then you're going to get some nasty shakeout akin to this. But yeah, this probably goes up first. Honestly, looking at this chart, probably goes up first, maybe finds resistance in this area. But I'd be very careful up there, just based on the fact that it could play out the same way again. But yeah, then again, like it's linked, it's been going up forever. So who the fuck knows where it's gonna go. I'm not gonna be the one that shorts it aggressively. I actually had the plan to short $20 for a long time, and then was busy trading other stuff. But yeah, at this point, like if it does some like weak pump that looks kind of shitty like this, I might actually get on board shorting Link. And I mean, where do you pull the trigger? Either you're just a madman and you short this, which I mean works for BSV, worked. Like that would be up here. Or you're just looking for a pump from here that gets sold into, and then you're just a madman that sells into a broken support, which has never really worked for Link other than this one time. Which, I mean, to be fair, was pretty much Bitcoin going completely nuts. Which this was as well, so yeah. I think, yeah, good on that short, that's what I'm saying. Like if you're aggressive and you're looking for a short, right? This kind of trade is really good probability and really good risk reward, I think. So, I mean, that's what I would kind of look out for. Like that kind of retrace would make sense to me at some point. Not sure if I'm going to take this stuff, but I mean, Cred's probably gonna hit me if he sees this, just because he's like, Link, dude, it's Link, only goes up. But at some point, I think it's gonna go down, and then you better be prepared for like, I mean, for maybe even dip buying, right? If you wanna buy dips, if you're mega bullish on Link, I mean, a 70% dip would be pretty sweet for you, right? Screenshot this. Please don't. I wanna get killed. I don't want to get killed. But yeah, that's kind of like what you could look out for. Like this kind of thing. It's funny that it immediately reminded me of BSV. This kind of thing into pump, into dump. Into a nice one too. I would kind of take this one a little bit further than you usually would. But yeah, that's Link because someone asked for Link. What country are you living in? Your pronunciation sounds quite European. Fuck, man. You don't have to say it that bluntly. I'm from Germany. Do you take more than one trade a month? How do you get your edge? Depends on where the market is, right? Sometimes I take a shitload of trades. Sometimes I don't take any trade in a month. It just depends on how the market looks, right? And now with like the Bybit competition going on, that's been fucking stressful. Like trading in front of an audience, worst experience of my life. Like, even though I don't care about the amounts, just like the added pressure of like having people watching and kind of like doing that on high leverage as well. Fucking hell, that's just stressful. I mean, just like trading on your own is stressful enough, right? Trading in front of others and then doing that in a degen kind of style. Fucking hell, dude. Most people got liquidated anyway, but it's been fun. Salsa's so fucking sick, that dude, man. Yeah, it's insane. Salsa's been on a really good roll. Did he again not ask for likes? Come on, guys, pump those likes, please. I actually did, but yeah. I mean, the like thing. I mean, don't feel pressured into it. And I'm gonna get killed by cred for it too. But yeah, I totally get not doing it. Shout out to Jules for ripping. Yeah. That's been a massive run. But yeah, that's Baxy's in the chat. Hey Baxy, good to see you. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting week, I think. I mean, we're just kind of consolidating around this daily level, right? And the moment that goes, like the moment we start closing back in here, probably gonna get this broken. I don't like anything but like if it wicks into this resistance, I think that's a short, right? If it wicks and then goes back down again. But I'd be careful shorting here just because it should have realistically broken down yesterday if it wanted to break down, I think. But then again, still looks top heavy on the low time frames. Just the big time frames, right? The weekly, for example, that's the one that should make you cautious. This is the one that screams long me, in my opinion. Just like if this is a trap, it's a pretty neat one. Not gonna lie. Like if it just pulls like a red candle down here after closing at support. I mean, I could see it. It's Bitcoin, right? But I think the chart would look more realistic if it pulled like a wick up here maybe and then sold into. Well, we'll know. We'll know in a week or two. Weekly looks like rounding into support or rounding top. I mean, there's a few different kind of roundings. So, okay, if we hold the support long 100x, that's what I'm saying, dude. No, the thing is, like, if you get, and this is something that I don't know if I talk enough about, but just because this closes at support doesn't mean you just blindly buy the close, right? So we have a close at support. And then you're like, okay, any kind of traps below this support are buying opportunities, right? Let's say we close at this level here, and then we get a massive shakeout below this candle that gets bought back up, and you get an entry below this candle somewhere, and this turns into a massive green dildo. That's the kind of thing you want to see. You don't necessarily want to just blindly buy this, have your stop loss down here, get stopped out at the bottom, and then see the candle run, right? You obviously still have to have some kind of entry system, depending on, like, it depends on how bullish or bearish you are, obviously. Like, if you're super bullish, you just buy a close, I think. But generally speaking, I try to get like shakeouts below the levels. Rounding like dumping. Yeah, I mean, if it accelerates, right? That's the kind of thing, like, let's say this rounds out here, and next week is a red candle down here. I think abandon ship and run for the hills, because then it's fucked, because then the support didn't do what it was supposed to do, and you have a shitload of people trapped here that bought this retest of support. Like, if you get a candle here that goes down, like a red candle that closes like this, even though it's at support, I think it's fucked. I wouldn't want to long that. It might bounce a little, but then I would try to sell into it. Because then, you know, like, all of these people in here would be trapped, right? And everyone that bought this retest here would be trapped. So I don't want to be one of those. So we'll see how the close goes. If it closes at support, I think the chances of going up are higher. But if it goes down anyway, I know that there's no bias, and I'm gonna expect lower, and I'm gonna expect a pretty big shakeout. Someone asked about like the correlation. Should I delete this trade? It's too ugly. At some point I'll have to delete it. I'll let you guys vote. I'll count the yeses and nos. But yeah, gold low time frames, a little bit at resistance. Tested it a million times though. Should have dumped yesterday as well if it really wanted to. It's gonna be interesting. Like I've been playing off of this resistance a little bit. Don't really dare to do it again. High time frame wise, gold's kind of interesting because really what it's done, take out the all-time high and then do nothing with it. So I could honestly see like this isn't necessarily the breakout that I wanted to see. So I could see this go sideways for a few months, maybe. But yeah, it's really hard to judge. Okay, one guy cares enough to say don't delete, so I'll leave it on. I'll leave it on for you, Paul. You're the man. So, what do we do now? Do you guys want to talk about altcoins? Do we just want to keep on chatting like this? I'm down to do whatever. I'll just let you have the say. And we'll see how it goes. If you have shitty suggestions, I'm never gonna do it again. So better be careful. Thoughts on a massive CME gap? Yeah, I mean, I actually like the 9.6 whatever area. So you could play it to the CME gap. I think the moment this starts rolling over, we're going to the CME gap. So like the moment this starts, this support loses, like we lose the support, and we're pretty close, right? If you think about it, and this is kind of like the duality of this kind of chart right now. The weekly looks pretty good. The daily looks pretty shitty-ish until it closes above this resistance, right? And the reason why I say it's looking shitty-ish is you've had these lows and you got them bought up all the time. You could even draw it diagonal, right? Let's actually do this for once, draw a diagonal. So you have kind of like this thing going. We could do it on lower time frames, so people are not going to complain that I just randomly threw it anywhere, because I'm pretty sure it's going to work on lower time frames. So you have this diagonal, right? Based off of, okay, you have this candle, support, and then it started breaking down, retested it, broke down. Could actually do the same thing here, right? And you really don't want to see like this kind of structure where you have higher lows broken. It's not necessarily something that you want to see as a bull. Sometimes it's fine, right? Sometimes you get these kind of things where price moves up like this, sticks it to the bulls, the over leveraged ones, and then gets bought back up, and that's fine, and then does the same kind of structure again. But what this is doing, and why I'm not like mega bullish into this, even though it's at support, is it didn't do this part. Instead, it just started trending down, right? So you have like these lower highs. You don't really have this stab down to punish over leveraged longs. You just have like a tiny downtrend in this uptrend, and there's still possibility of it doing this kind of stab to the downside, right? Like if you get a stab down here, people are gonna freak the fuck out. So this kind of chart still has that potential, and I mean, if you had the stab in here and then went back to this level, you wouldn't really have the over leveraged long problem anymore. I mean, generally speaking, there's way less over leveraged longs right now than in the last few tops that we've had. Like people were stupid leveraged in here, like really badly leveraged. So this is better. We'll see how it plays out. Generally speaking, I still think you want to see this get taken out. And if it does, it's so close to the high that it just makes sense to at least do this kind of retest of this resistance here, right? Take this out, run into this resistance. And if it gets hard rejected here, maybe we go lower. But generally speaking, if it just gets a little bit rejected and then starts slowing down on the way, you might be able to catch a little bit higher. But yeah, we'll see. This is just a patience game right now. And I mean, you can just trade it as range if you want to. Been pretty nice. Like there's been some nice low time frame ranges as well. Like if you've had the 4-hour kind of support resistances, you made off a lucky man in these kind of, with these kind of wicks. So these are the two that I had. And like the 2 4-hour levels that I had. And that's been pretty neat for like a range play. Range low, range high. This even stabbed it. And then you have range high again the third time. So, I mean, second time always okay-ish to play. The third time gets a little bit more dangerous. You can still play it because your invalidation is so close, right? And that's why we're getting a pullback right now, right? Because you get people entering here with like an invalidation of like something like that. It's pretty close invalidation, and even if it's just a range play. Whoops, this is the wrong. I don't want to take a long. Like people are kind of looking for this setup. And that's a decent range play, right? That's why we're getting a pullback right now. But who knows if this is gonna stick again. Generally speaking, whenever you get these wicks, like these stupid wicks to the up or the downside, they tend to get run at some point. And we had one to the downside right here, and that got ran over here. And now we had it to the upside, so I would expect that to get run at some point as well. Is that what they call a slow bleed? Yeah. So generally speaking, in crypto, and I've talked about this before, so excuse me for boring you. In crypto, what oftentimes happens, right? You get a move up, a stupid move up, then you get a range, then you get a stab above whatever high you set in that range, and then it rejects down, and that marks for a lot of people the top of the move. Like IDM cred. The moment we got this move, IDM cred that the top was in, like at least short term, right? Because it did pretty much exactly what you wanted to see for a top to be in. It took out the high and then started slow bleeding it down, right? You took out every single shorter and then it started slow bleeding. That's why I started shorting 12.2 on the way up and then added 12.1. Or added 12, so got an average around 12.1. So you get this, and then you start slow bleeding it out, right? And this is exactly what happened up here. And then there's like pretty much two ways. If it's really the top, like whenever you get these stabs above, it's very likely to at least visit range low. And that's kind of what we've done already. And then there's two possibilities, right? One, you get a quick stab down, and then you reverse it and you go back up, right? Or you get just a massive capitulation. If it's bearish, you get the capitulation, obviously, or like in general, like the move accelerates. And if this entire thing is bullish, you usually try to kind of get these stabs down to kill the over leveraged longs, so you can get long yourself. But yeah, this is like the two ways it usually plays out. Like whenever you get these massive steps to the upside, you go to range low after. That's, like I said, that's something we've already done. We haven't really had like a shakeout to the downside. Like you could argue, okay, this was it. But then if this was it was pretty shallow. But yeah, if this was it, we should take this out and then run back higher. And then this entire thing looks way more bullish, because right now this could be like a micro and a kind of macro top-ish for like at least a month or 2 or 3. Like if this just continues bleeding out from here and then speeds up, then you could get like a really low move. But yeah, so far should have really broken down yesterday, so that's why I'm not entirely sure, because I was pretty sure that we would at least go to range low, but that's, like I said, that's done. What does running a SIG mean? Did I say something weird? Because that's not what I meant. I don't know what running a SIG means. Running a low, that's what I said. I don't remember. Someone please correct the man. Or tell me what I said wrong. Oh Jesus, wick. So running a wick. What does running a wick mean? Right? So okay, so you have this wick down here, right? And the people are like, okay, this is a shakeout. It shouldn't really go below the shakeout, so they put their stop losses down here, right? So they long in here, for example, and then they put their stop loss in here, and they're like, if this is bullish, this really shouldn't go back low again. You have a shitload of people with the obvious stop down here, right? So what do you do if you want to fuck people over, or if you want to get into a long position yourself and you don't really have like the necessary liquidity for it, or in general you just want to get into a position? You don't even have to like do it yourself, but in general, like the market notices this, like there's an obvious draw point, and then people like me, for example, don't want to buy before that gets taken out, or they don't want to sell before that gets taken out, right? And then they like, you don't have too many buyers before it gets taken out, and you also have people that are trying to fuck people over that bought in this entire thing. And then you run the wick, as in people sell into the wick, people get stopped out at the bottom of that wick, and then you go back up. In general, for some reason in the last few years, crypto has been trading more and more with these kind of stop runs, where you have like a structure. And I mean, with pretty much any major top has been like this. You have a structure, and then you would think, right, okay, you have resistance here, support here, and you would think, okay, I'm gonna sell this resistance, and then this is gonna break down. Like you're bearish and you think, okay, this is gonna break down at some point. You'd be like, okay, I'm selling resistance, and then take it down, right? And in crypto, and generally in a lot of markets actually, what instead happens is you get this, and then you get a move up. You sold here, get completely rolled over, completely fucked by that, and then it dumps. So oftentimes, if you actually want to sell above where you originally plan or whatever, like if you expect the trading range to break down, it's oftentimes the case that you sell above the trading range, not the resistance at the trading range. So at least how I trade a lot in the last few years. Like if you have a too clean trading range, you're just like, okay, that shit is gonna get fucked one way or the other. And oftentimes what you can actually do, and what I like to do in these cases, you have this trading range and you're not sure where this is gonna go, right? Sometimes you just don't know. You see the trading range and you don't know. And but you get this feeling that you have a lot of people over leveraged, or in general you have a lot of people in position that are waiting for something, and then you just say, okay, I'm gonna stay out of it until this breaks one way or the other, and then it breaks out above, doesn't really get much follow through, doesn't really get like any kind of significant buying, and then you sell actually into this. Then you know, okay, it's probably gonna go down, and then it goes down. And the opposite happens for like bullish moves. Like you look at this, you have no idea, it starts breaking down, but it's really weak, and then you buy and you target higher. So oftentimes like the breakdown or the break up are actually signs that you want to position in the opposite direction in these kind of markets, which is kind of like there's a lot to it. Depends on the market condition, obviously, but I mean, I like to kind of look at that sometimes when I'm not sure where it's gonna go, but I know that a lot of people are positioned in one way or the other. Your voice gives me kind of a trustworthy vibe. Lol, good voice. I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, it's my voice is my voice, so that's nothing much, nothing like it's not because of me. I mean, my voice just no one chooses their voice, but I really appreciate it. It's a nice compliment. Don, this current fractal looks exactly similar to what happened a month back. Any thought? What do you mean? You mean this one? You think so? I mean, you mean this shakeout into retest into meandering downwards into a range? I mean, you could argue that, yeah. You could argue that. But then again, like when you get these kind of ranges, right? You have a range in here, and then you mark up, and then you like a lengthier range wouldn't make much sense here. If you get a lengthy range in here, I think it's probably gonna be distribution, and you want to sell the spike up, just based on the fact that if this was all like if this goes on too long, it'd just be like the people that bought in here just selling in here. I'd be surprised if it just was like accumulation into tiny move up into accumulation into tiny move up. Like that's not usually how it goes. But yeah, so far it looks similar. I agree. Like a slow grind into support down here. Like this kind of, this is support, right? This is support. Same kind of structure. I agree. But then again, like with the fractal stuff, right? You can draw fractals and you can say, okay, I'm bullish or bearish this based on the fractal. Like you could make a, let's say you have a chart like this, right? Bitcoin at 3K or whatever, Bitcoin breaks down, makes an ascending triangle, like a massive one, and then breaks up. And then you get at 50K, you get the same pattern, the exact same look to it or whatever. And like you get this pattern, it starts to kind of crawl back up. You get this kind of ascending triangle at 50K, right? These are completely different market conditions, and you kind of have to look out for that. So it's kind of dangerous if you're just like, okay, this chart looks exactly the same. If they're at widely different price points, right? I think that's the biggest problem like anti-fractal people have with fractals, because what people like to do, and it's completely stupid in my mind too, like if you remember back in 17 and 18, when people drew these kind of like XRP did this and then pulled back, and then people were like, okay, like it pumped like this, had a pump here, pulled back a little bit, and then had this massive pump, right? And then people were like, okay, if you look at this is just the fractal of this entire thing, and this should just move higher up, right? And then they had these stupid targets where you had like XRP at like $400 or whatever, and then you had XRP being 10 times bigger than Bitcoin. And I mean, you can, like any kind of idiot can see why that doesn't make any sense, right? So your fractals have to make sense. I don't really mind this one too much. Like I think that one isn't as, like that's not a bad one, but just in general with the topic of fractals, right? If you're trying to draw fractals, you have to keep them kind of reasonable, obviously, right? So if you're like looking at XRP and you're like, okay, this did this in the past, so it's gonna do this again, and then you look at the market cap and you're like, okay, the market cap would be bigger than the market cap of Tesla, then I mean, you gotta ask yourself if that makes any sense. So that's kind of like the problem I think most people have with fractals. I don't really mind fractals. It's just gotta keep them realistic. This one, not necessarily too unrealistic. who even invests in Bitcoin in 2020? So many better technologies out there. I don't want to get into it. But I mean, the better technologies, if you want to argue about better technologies, I don't know, like, if blockchain is necessarily the best technology for a lot of use cases. So, like, you have, like, all these kind of protocols, whatever, blockchains, that you could just do with, like, a database and could do centralized easier. And the only reason why they're a blockchain in general is because it gets investors going. Right. So it doesn't really matter. Like, the blockchain technology could be like 10-star. If you don't really need the blockchain technology at all, it doesn't really matter. Right. Like, blockchain is good for some stuff, not good for everything, in my opinion anyway. And a lot of people that say, okay, this technology is 10 times better, they just don't kind of compare to like the traditional stuff that's out there that is already better in a lot of use cases. So yeah, depends on the use case, I think. And you can make that argument in any kind of direction you want. Oof, Almeo, irgendwie for Nano Shillers. Yeah, I mean, good old Nano. How is that doing? Let's look at Nano for a while, because I haven't done so in a while. Dude, these ranges have been so killer. It's insane. I don't think I've ever said killer like that before. I already weirded myself out. I'm sorry. But yeah, this range has been really neat. I've kind of used this on stream. I didn't trade this at all. Last time I like aggressively traded Nano was in here, and then I had some trades on the way down, but nothing aggressive. But yeah, this range has been pretty nice. This is where the range is set, right? Round out here, and people were saying, okay, but why do you have this range low back like last week? Because this isn't really interacting with it much. But you can see why, like, these old ranges, right, that get disregarded once or twice don't have to be bad. Like, you still find support where you should be finding support, even if you have like 1 or 2 times where it gets disregarded. And the reason, like, you could have someone that just absolutely hates or loves Nano, like a big holder that hates Nano, just dumps into support, and then the support doesn't hold and gets reclaimed. And I mean, these kind of smaller coins, there can be deviations from the chart, and doesn't necessarily have to break it. Looks like a nice inverse head and shoulders. Oh, you're saying like this shoulder, this head, this shoulder. I mean, meh. Shouldn't have rejected here then, but it's okay, I guess. Like, if you're mega bullish, like, the invalidation for these trades is pretty close. Like, if you really think this is an inverse head and shoulders, right? Your invalidation is like the new lows, and your target is the resistance up here. Those kind of trades are not too terrible. It's just a question of, are you really right that it's an inverse head and shoulders? I don't know. Could be, honestly. So far, it's just been ranging. And looking at like other altcoins, like if you look at EOS, for example, it's one that I've been like following a little bit closer. What you get is these kind of fuckery trades. Like, you get breakouts into retests and dump into. This support's been doing pretty well, like it's bounced from here. But in general, I think with these coins, you want to wait for a structure like this. Either it breaks down, right? Either it breaks down, and then you get in on the breakdown, or you get in on the breakout, which is fine too, right? It doesn't really matter, one or the other. I think it makes more sense to just give it some time, give it some room. Because really, like, if you're missing out the first 20%, you're missing out on getting dumped on and trying 5 times in a row. Happy Friday, everybody. Glad to be here. That's a nice message. Thanks, man. Happy Friday to you too. What would be the nano long trade for you? I mean, that would be the nano long trade for me. If I wanted to buy nano, that's what I would do. Like, I mean, let me see. Like, if I wanted to get long nano, I'd either, I don't even like this too much, but if I want to get long nano, I mean, the low has to be in, right? And then target this resistance. This would be the nano trade. But I think it's the same thing. Like, I'd much rather be a buyer here after V or whatever. And I think if it goes to this resistance, it's probably going to dump after. Like, I hate whenever altcoins do this, and this is something that you saw in EOS, right? Whenever altcoins do this and people are always so excited, you get like a massive pump into dump into like this. They always break out, right? Almost like 90% of the time for a tiny bit. Retracing maybe 5% of the star move, right? And then they dump. Whenever they do something like this, and then they go down, and then they reclaim, they usually pump hard. So, like, with these kind of trades, right? With nano here, for example, like if you took this, I think you're speculating for it to do a bearish retest, and then you get the fuck out and pray to God that you get out. Because then it would be a bearish retest and I'd expect it to actually go lower. Like if you don't get a shakeout on an altcoin, on any of the older altcoins, it's very likely, like there's a good chance it goes up when it goes sideways, but there's a good chance that's going to be the last time you get to sell before it makes new lows. BTC will pump hard. If bears wanted to cuck it, they would have done it yesterday. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, it should have broken down yesterday. But I think there's a good chance that we run this and then dump regard. Sorry for that. No idea why, but my OBS just decided to disconnect for a second. Can you guys hear me again? Yeah, that's some weird stuff. I haven't had OBS die on me. I mean, like my internet, that would make sense, right? But OBS, that makes no sense. But yeah, sorry for that. I'm back. But yeah, Bitcoin, it's the weirdest thing. Like this kind of move down. It's just literally been bearish retest after bearish retest after bearish retest. I mean, this could just be the next one in line, right? It's just like, it's so ridiculous, but I've been saying the same thing. Like at this one, I was saying, really shouldn't have retested, but I'm going to give it a chance. And at this one, I was like, it really shouldn't have retested, but I'm going to give it a chance. This one, I mean, I'm not short anymore. So, yeah, I don't know. I'll see. Maybe, like, I want to get back into my position just because it was a pretty nice risk-defined position, and I'm not going to, like, there's no way that I go out with a loss anymore because, I mean, stop loss is quite a bit below entry now. Like, my entry was 12, roughly 12.1. Stop loss would be around here, so wouldn't really make a loss on the trade. But then again, like, doesn't really make much sense. Like if you're pretty sure it's gonna break to the upside, it doesn't really make sense to position in a short. I'll see what I'll do. This daily close is gonna be interesting. If it just closes back down here again, I mean, anything could happen at that point, honestly. Like I wouldn't trust it too much as a bearish retest. But I mean, it's done it 2 times already. Maybe it does it the 3rd time. Don't you see BTC as bullish structure? The daily doesn't. The daily looks shitty. Like this looks shitty to me until it reclaims 1177, right? Like if it does this is a bullish structure and it probably goes to 12.1, 12.2, probably even higher than that, right? Where I'm saying like, okay, this is starting to look bullish is this, right? And you can't really be too bearish on like a rounded retest of support after a rally like this, right? This isn't necessarily a too bad of a look. Why chart altcoins if they dump with Bitcoin? Because, I mean, this didn't really give a shit about what Bitcoin did. This didn't really give a shit either, right? This has been just, I mean, since the September of 19th, this has just been pretty much sideways for an entire year. Bitcoin went like this in that year. Fucking mega dumped, mega pumped, did everything in between. This didn't do anything. So there's definitely a difference. What I think you're asking about is the USD pairs, and I mean that's a good question and one that I kind of agree with your point. Like if I were to chart EOS USD, it just looked like a mini version of Bitcoin, and there's little reason to do it. But the Bitcoin pairs do look different and behave different too. Well, those are 2 candles on the weekly. Are 2 candles enough to say rounded retest? I mean, in this entire, like, so whenever Bitcoin's been slowing down, like this has been the last time Bitcoin slowed down, right? It slowed down and then started dumping, and bears couldn't dump it, and then it just mega pumped, right? So I don't know, like this is big support, big weekly support. Yeah, like this is what happens in a bear market, right? On a weekly time frame. And this was easy, like I traded all of this. Like I literally traded every single one of these. So this, any kind of resistance gets sold into. This one broken through on the first one, but ran into this bigger resistance up here, rejected, retested here, rejected, and then same kind of story as on this side here, ran through on the first time, but rejected by the one above it, and then retested here, rejected again. Like that's how the bleed out looks. We haven't really had that on this side. In this side, we have pretty much resistance here, and then breaks above and rounds out on top of it. That's it's a different look, right? So could this be the top? I mean, I'm not saying no, but if this weekly closes like this, I think the chances of us going a little bit, at least like $600, $700, $800 more up, I think is more likely than down at that point. Thank you, Don. Have a good weekend. Have a good weekend too. Thanks for the nice message. Don, the weekly also took out the 12.4 highs from 19. Yeah, the weekly took out a lot of stuff. Like we're sitting on this. So resistance here, resistance here, resistance here. You could, I usually don't like these kind of moves where you stab your head above resistance and then immediately retest it. That just screams shake out to me. But until we close below, that isn't confirmed, right? But if we start, like I said, if we start closing below, then it starts to look really bearish. And I wouldn't want to buy the lower supports. Like I wouldn't want to buy this at that point other than like intra week. And I wouldn't want to be buying this. I'd be looking at this. Like if this week closes at support and then next week dumps and closes red, I think you pull your bids and you try to, or at least I'm gonna try to get lower. That's what I'm gonna do. But I might take a cheeky long if the weekly, or at least not short if the weekly closes like it looks right now. What exchange do you use to short altcoins? In general, like I tend to try to avoid shorting altcoins. There's multiple reasons for that. One, you have like shorting altcoins. If you're wrong, you're gonna be really wrong, and you won't have any liquidity to get out of the short. at least if you're trading the smaller ones. And the second one is that the downside, like if you're shorting, right, and it goes down like 50%, right? You short with, let's say you're a new trader, right? You have $1,000 to short, like on one position, to put on one position, right? With that 1,000, you short an altcoin, and it goes down 50%, right? Your position is 1,000. Goes down 50%. You get rewarded, like you buy it back, right? That's how it works. You short 1,000, you buy it back lower, and you keep whatever you made in the process, right? So you made 500 and you're happy. That means the coin went down 50%, almost went to zero. I mean, we could do the same thing. The coin went down 90%. You made 900, right? You made 900. And now instead the opposite, you long an old coin and it puts in a 10x run. You have invested 1,000, it puts in a 10x run, you're now at 10,000, right? There's a big difference on what you get out of this. Like you can be right on the altcoins and still make little on the short side. But you can be like when you're right on the altcoins on the long side, you just get much more. So in general, like these kind of altcoins, they can scam higher much longer than you think. Like for example, Link. Like if I was a sane kind of trader, right? If I was a sane trader and I looked at Link perp, this shit should have died ages ago, right? But it doesn't. Like it didn't. And any kind of sane trader, or like not even trader, like let's say an investor or whatever, you look at the fundamentals and shit and you're like $15 for this crap, it's way too much. You would have said the same thing at 8 and you would have said the same thing at 4, right? And if you're just sitting there getting fucked over, and at some point it might go back to where you think it should be valued at. But yeah, you already got fucked. And instead, if you just bought it when it was low, the multiplier is much bigger. But then again, you have to kind of live with yourself buying weird stuff. But that's fine by me. Like buying your coins. But like I said, like if you're kind of buying this stuff, there's the kind of risk to reward is much higher on the long side. It's just how it is. Like bears always get the short end of the stick. Like you take a short position, and I mean you can obviously reshort. But then you only have to be wrong once or twice to give back pretty much everything. So yeah, generally speaking, these altcoins, you want to be long focused. And I think it makes most sense to just trade stuff on the long side. And then just take profits and long lower again. You should make 1K when it drops 50%. No, that's not how it works. I mean, you should, if you're like, oh yeah, this is how it should work. I mean, nah, doesn't make much sense either. But it's just how it is. Like the bears always, like being bearish, you have a ceiling. Being bullish, you don't. It's just how it is. So being bullish makes more sense. And if you're not bullish on these, it makes more sense to stay out than trade them, in my opinion. Because like I said, they can go much higher than you think. This went much higher than I would have ever thought it would go. Still didn't lose my hat shorting it because it doesn't, like, I wasn't really interested in shorting it too much. Was interested in shorting 20, but then missed 20, didn't take it. But such is life. Was this all Fortune Marines shilling? I mean, it sounds good. It's a coin that sounds good, right? And a coin that goes up, that people just keep on buying, that sounds good. I mean, you just spin your own narrative. I don't think it's just Fortune. It's a mixture of both, or mixture of like a lot of different things. And And we'll see if it sticks around like that. I don't think so. This reminds me of the EOS run. EOS was hailed as the next ETH, and it went stupid while everything else was going down. And then eventually it just dumped harder than everything. And I think that's how Link is going to end up as well. Just, you don't know how high it goes before. What do you think of SEC? I haven't looked at SEC in a while. Ah, shit. So SEC, right? Just finished the bearish retest. This is like literally on like most of these altcoins. Like I open up the weekly chart and it just tags my weekly, like my weekly retest, bearish retest levels, and it just starts dumping. In this case, yeah, it really should have held here. We'll see how the weekly closes, but I'm not too sold on. I mean, you could argue this is support. So yeah, you want to see this hold. In my opinion, you want to see this hold. That's fine. Like as long as it holds this, it's fine. If it doesn't hold that, it's probably fucked. If you guys remember my line, like I've been saying, buy anything significantly below the line, sell anything significantly above the line. This would be significantly above the line. This would be significantly below the line. I mean, it doesn't obviously, like it's not going to go like this forever, right? But like if you bought here based on, okay, it's way below where it should be, I think selling there on the bearish retest, because it's way higher than the line indicates, makes sense. But yeah, what it really has to do, like if it holds this, it's fine, I think. What it really has to do is start breaking out here. If it reclaims this as support or in general breaks out of here with close, I think there's a good chance we go at least up here, right? But so far, I mean, it's struggling right now. EOS Bitcoin Cash didn't move that much, but eventually it will go later. It's not how it works. Like sometimes you just have coins that don't move an entire like cycle. We've had that before. ETC, for example, a good example, right? Wrong exchange. Bittrex works. Jesus, I was pretty close with this shit. Do you guys remember this? This was literally drawn on stream where it's like, look at this, it's just similar. I was literally up here where I was like, it's the inverse. It's pretty close. Do you have an even older chart? Yeah, this works anyway. So old season, right? Old season, December to, I mean, November, December, January, generally, right? So November 17, right? So we had the big old season was this. ETC never pumped. Like, I mean, it pumped, right? If you can call this a pump. Everything else went up 10x. This went up 2x and then never did anything. There's coins that will not pump even if we have old season. And there's coins that will never pump. I own a few from way back in the day that I can't get rid of. Like, coins disappear, coins die, it's just how it is. And I mean, is EOS or is Bitcoin Cash going to disappear? I don't know. I don't think they're going to disappear anytime soon, but there's a good possibility that they're not going to pump even if other coins pump. And the worst thing that you can do, in my opinion, is just blindly buy them because they haven't gone up. Because that's what everyone did in 17 and 18 with ETC. And you can ask pretty much anyone that has been around in 17 how Twitter and pretty much everywhere looked. People were like, if you bought this and this and sold, cycle your profits into ETC because it hasn't pumped yet and it's gonna. And then those coins that they sold went up another 5x and ETC never did anything. Same thing with Zcash. Same thing with a lot of these coins. Never pumped. They had their time where they pumped, and then after they just couldn't be So people sold into everything. And I mean, that same thing could happen on EOS, on Bitcoin Cash. Look for the ones that look good, not the ones that look like shit but haven't moved. Zcash halving in November. Yeah, I mean, that's a meme that you could play. I'm not gonna, I think. But that's kind of my advice. Like, if you're looking for allocation in your coin market, don't just blindly buy something that hasn't moved. Buy something that has actually a good setup, right? There's good setups around that you can look out for. There's no need to kind of just be blindly buying stuff that hasn't moved, because the fact that it hasn't moved means people, like, either people aren't interested or people are actually actively selling into the interest that is in the altcoin markets in general. And then there's a small possibility that it just catches up later. But I think the first two ones, namely that people are dumping their bags at any price into any kind of buying activity that goes on, is more likely when you have a coin that just doesn't want to move. Then, okay, it's just going to catch up later. But yeah, we've gone on for longer than usual, so I think I'm going to call it here. It's been a pleasure. I think it was pretty nice, pretty casual, as casual Fridays go. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Wish you guys a happy weekend, and we'll see each other Wednesday. And Monday is going to be great. If he's not sick, if he's sick, I'm going to have to ask you for patience with me again. But I hope he's going to be better by Monday. So yeah. Before I end the stream, big shout out to Bybit for sponsoring it. Really appreciate it. They also do like cool stuff like trading competitions and that kind of stuff. So I'll keep you updated on that if something new comes up. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and see you guys next week. Bye bye.